So TSF, they really wanted to play, but they weren't sure if they were going to be able to play in the tournament or if they could just get a game. So I think it was Friday morning, the TSF director, Adam Gibbs, texted me. He's like, hey, we want to play if you can find us a game. I'm like, well, we'd love to have you. So I knew Nike Elite Stars were one of the teams we had coming.
We knew that we could get them at least one game. And, we were trying to decide, exactly, who would be willing to do it that we already had at our event and who would be a good fit to do it. Nike Elite Stars was an obvious one just because of the great matchups that could potentially come about with that.
But I just had to wait and see how the brackets shook out. Well, it worked out just perfectly that the Nike Elite Stars had finished with a game in between to be able to play TSF. So we had court open. TSF wanted to play. Nike Elite Stars were all about it. He had two of the best point guards in the country, so I figured, why not? Let's do it. But starting with TSF, you have Bruce Thornton, who's obviously a five-star guard, just recently committed to Ohio State, but had schools all over the country recruiting him. Trey Donaldson's actually an interesting story because he's actually a football player too, and he's got a lot of the SEC and ACC schools recruiting him that way. I think Florida State are probably the two that are coming in the hardest, but I think he's still trying to figure out, is he going to play football or basketball? So you had those two, but Kanan Carlisle played up that day. He's one of the top 2023 prospects in the country. Isaiah Collier, same thing, another top 2023 prospect in the country. So that's four guards that are about as high profile as they're going to find. And on the other side, obviously, Nike Elite Stars, they had JD Davison, five-star recruit, just committed to Alabama, but again, had schools all over the country recruiting him. Antonio Kite for Nike Elite Stars, number 0. He's actually a pretty highly recruited 2022 prospect. I think he's got offers from Auburn and Alabama, Mississippi State, and several others. So there was a lot of talent on the court that day and a lot of fun players to watch, which made it a really fun matchup. As the game was starting, about an hour before is when I officially said it, and I told both coaches, no social media. We're not tweeting this out. We're not trying to get the biggest crowd. We're still in the middle of a worldwide pandemic. So, yeah, if we would have just let all doors open, it would have been wild. So we had to kind of block off the court certain areas. We were only letting family members in and coaches and players. And
what it would normally be like, you would see, rows deep of people. So where you would kind of have surrounding the court, you'd have like the people that are right there on the court. You'd have another row behind them and probably another row behind them, just like kind of standing around the court. It was tough just keeping this whole thing kind of toned down until it actually happened. There were a lot of people that, didn't even know that it was happening because, if we just let the cat out of the bag, it would have probably been a hectic situation. We probably would have had to kind of let people, kind of deny them from getting in just from a safety standpoint.
Feeling each other out during a back-and-forth first half, Nike Elite Stars went on a 7-0 run to lead 54-46 after a three-point play from New Mexico commit Jamel King and a driving layup from JD Davison with 1:23 to play. But TSF answered with 5 straight points to end the half to cut the deficit to 54-51 at the break. Davison led the way with 20, and Bruce Thornton scored 17. Following some tightly contested minutes to start the second half, TSF just went on a tear. With the score tied at 69, they jumped to a 12-point lead off a Trey Donaldson dunk, then 14 when he scored in transition to make it 83-69. Davison and Nike Elite Stars were far from done, though. They cut it to 7 twice before Davison dribbles through 2 defenders and finishes, with 2 more closing in to cut it to 97-92 with 1:43 remaining. Donaldson responds, beating Nike Elite Stars' defensive pressure for the layup, and the lead is back to 7. After a Davison miss, TSF turns it over with 58 seconds to play. Davison takes advantage, going coast to coast as he finishes with 4 defenders closing in to get back within 5. But another TSF response as a Kanan Carlisle putback pushes TSF ahead 101-94 with 37 seconds remaining. Nike Elite Stars keeps running up the drama, though, as Antonio Spoody Kite hits a ridiculous circus shot with 20 ticks in the clock. But Donaldson, who is among the nation's top football prospects at safety, ended the threat as he showed his defensive backfield skills, taking a long pass for another layup. A Nike Elite Stars turnover sealed it, and TSF Mack left with a 103-96 win. The Stars didn't disappoint in this one as Davison finished with 32 to top Nike Elite Stars, and Donaldson and Thornton paced TSF Mack with 24 each.
It's so much fun when you get guys like that live up to that hype and perform. When you have a guy like JD Davison, you're obviously never out of the game. He can kind of do things that other guys can't. They can score in bunches and get you back in a hurry. And they shot the ball so well too. So I mean, when you have that kind of combination, you're never really out of it. And the responses that Donaldson and Thornton had every time was amazing to watch. And the just everybody that was surrounding that court and sitting on that court, they knew what they were watching, which was what made it what it was.
When you get a matchup like that, you really just want the best players to play at their best. And I think just going back and watching that game again yesterday, like you completely had Bruce Thornton was great. JD Davison was great. Cannon Carlisle had his moments. Trey Donaldson was super. But you had all the big guys. They really came to play and they competed. But it was a friendly competition too. Like these guys, like after the game, I think JD Davison went on Twitter saying, "Oh man, I love Bruce and Trey. Those guys are tough." And I think they tweeted back at him. So it was good to see just those guys going at it, and it was a ton of fun to watch, man.